Dangerous, sadistic, maniacal, uncooperative are all words that describe Jerome New Jack Young.
Anybody that ever knew me knew I snorted coke before my match.
New Jack made a name for himself as one of the most unpredictable wrestlers in the business. Controversial at times, he exuded danger and was one of the last wrestlers who could draw pure white heat from the fans, even until his final days. Someone who prides himself as one of the world's most hardcore wrestler is bound to hurt some of his opponents. Let's find out how many wrestlers has New Jack injured. On April 1st, 1996, New Jack was booked in a tag team match against the Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards for a television taping of ECW Hardcore TV. Unfortunately, Stevie Richards had suffered an injury that put him out of action. A prelim worker named Austin Chad was called in as his replacement. Prior to the bout, Austin rubbed Jack the wrong way by trying to lay out a match where he'd get to work like a guy on the veteran level. Jack would take out his frustrations on Austin during the course of the match by intentionally delivering stiff chair shots. At the end, New Jack dove off the top rope with a steel chair and onto Austin's face, injuring it. Afterwards, he took the chair and hit him 5 times, breaking his leg as well. New Jack later started using the top rope dive with a chair as his finisher and referred to it as the 187. In various interviews, Jack credited Chad Austin, albeit sarcastically, for its creation. An independent promotion called PWX, based in Orlando, booked New Jack against an unknown indie wrestler. I don't seem to understand why inexperienced performers are usually New Jack's opponents, given his stellar reputation of non-corporation. New Jack used the backside of the chair, hitting this unknown green and young independent wrestler's head, splitting his skull open. The indie wrestler completely blacked out and probably suffered a concussion. Apparently, Jack got upset when this kid no-sold his offense and refused to go home, meaning it was time for them to execute the planned ending for their match. In 2004, Jacksonville, Florida, specifically the Radisson Riverwalk Hotel, was the place where a very inexperienced youngster called Hunter Red, in front of a crowd of maybe 20 people, is booked against New Jack in a match. Hunter, having no concept of the basic wrestling terminology, backs Jack up and punches him in the eye, and the second time punches him on the nose. After that, Jack loses his coked-out mind and starts stabbing Hunter Red. However, New Jack is eager to discredit reports claiming he stabbed 16 times.
And I did not stab him 14 times. I stabbed him 9. It was 9.
I got a college education and a criminal record, so I know how to make decisions.
New Jack was arrested and facing jail time when Hunter Red came to visit him in prison and said that he would drop the charges if Jack would turn the whole thing into an angle. New Jack agreed, but when the charges were dropped, fled Florida and never spoke to him again. In 2010, New Jack was at a local independent show in Florida, selling merchandise and signing autographs when he heard the announcer use the name The American GANGTAS. This was strikingly similar to the name of the tag team New Jack formed in the 90s.
He blew his nose and ate that for the extra cocaine residue, you know? And I don't know if we were supposed to be like, hell yeah!
He stormed into the ring, called out the young tag team, and challenged them to a match. Jack worked a very stiff match using various weapons along with a Wolverine-style claw to leave the 2 young wrestlers in pools of their own blood. Whether this match was planned or not, the American GANGTAS likely rethought their life choices after this fateful night with the original GANGTAS. Gypsy Joe, a 70-year-old man at the time of this match, had been wrestling since the early 1960s. His big thing was being very hard to harm, no selling a lot, and they set up a match against New Jack, a wrestler very protective of his own gimmick as a master of causing pain to others. This is the story of an immovable object meets with an unstoppable force.
There's about 400 years old named Gypsy Joe.
New Jack has said that the first time he saw Gypsy Joe, he went straight to the promoter and told him that only two things can happen here. Either this can be a comedic match, can be a hardcore match. Promoter replied stating, "Gypsy Joe is as tough as leather, enraged wrestling an old man not selling his moves, and the Tennessee crowd shouting racial slurs at him. Let's have New Jack explain the rest."
You got this 97-year-old dude that was around when gas was 12 cents a gallon and Jesus and Moses were tag teaming. Baseball aluminum bat with some barbed wire wrapped around and whooped his ass, bro. He was a midget. Hit him in the head with a purse and they was like, "Go to the car, get the gun, kill that gun."
A 17-year-old kid named Eric Kulas, who performed under a bus driver gimmick called Mass Transit, convinced ECW's president Paul Heyman to allow him to fill in for another wrestler that could not make it due to travel issues. Kulas lied that he was 21 years old and learned wrestling from the esteemed trainer Killer Kowalski. If even one of those things were true, perhaps disaster could have been averted. The match was very one-sided, with Mustafa easily isolating Devon outside the ring before he and New Jack severely beat Kulas with foreign objects such as crutches, garbage cans, chairs, and toasters. At the end, New Jack tried to blade Kulas but accidentally severed 2 arteries in his forehead, making him bleed profusely. Mass Transit's father can be heard saying, "He's only 17, and take it easy on him, he's just a kid." New Jack claims that Kulas was extremely arrogant and demanding backstage prior to the match, and he had requested Jack to make him get color, which means to make him bleed. Vic Grimes, an American professional wrestler best described as,
"Imagine Humpty Dumpty with arms and legs as a professional wrestler. That's kind of how he was shaped."
During ECW's Living Dangerously in March 2000, a breakdown in communication between New Jack and Grimes led to both men tumbling off a 20-foot-high scaffolding rig onto concrete. This botched spot between Vic Grimes and New Jack resulted in New Jack having a fractured skull. He was leaking brain fluid out his nose and can't hardly see out of one of his eyes. A year later, they agreed to a rematch with even higher stakes involving throwing your opponent from a 40-feet-high scaffolding. Holding a grudge, New Jack admitted to snorting coke before the match and had full intentions of legitimately hurting his opponent.
Well, I mean, I was high. You know what I mean? I was high, so I just tased him. I tased him. Jack, I can't feel my legs. I said, "You ain't gonna need them." Bums away. I wanted him to hit the floor. I just didn't throw him hard enough. I was trying to throw his ass to the floor.
Vic managed to dislocate his ankle and suffer multiple other injuries, but luckily nothing permanent, as he was able to make a full recovery. If you like to see more weekly wrestling content like this, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below if I have missed any other wrestler New Jack might have injured.